The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not reflect any official view of the United Steelworkers, USW, Local 105, or its officers or sub-board members for officers. Now, from the banks of the mighty Mississippi, this is Steel Revolution.
All right, so in a change of events, we are starting off Steel Revolution number 7 with another intro due to the over 2 hours of tape that was dropped.
Over 2 hours, yeah.
So Steel Revolution number 7 had 2 guests on it. Trace Leone, which is the Iowa Federation of Labor WIN organizer, and Julie McMeekin, which she is the Great River Area Labor Council field organizer.
No, I got to correct you there. We actually had 3 guests. We brought back in Rick Ramirez, USW Local 105 political organizer at the end. I got to give him some credit too.
I wasn't counting him. So anyway, like we said, we had lots of tape put down, or lots of time recorded. So we decided it'd be best to break that up into 3 segments. So there's going to be one with first one should be Tracy talking about more of local issues, Iowa issues, especially the stuff that happened in Muscatine and what's happening to their mayor. And then a second half, which Tracy's part of, then Julie later talking more about our presidential election and going from Bernie to Hillary and how people feel about that, just a honest conversation. And then also stuff that's happening in Iowa. But we did leave out some stuff that was meant to be on there with the way our podcast went. So
are we going to call it 7.1 and 7.2 then?
Sure.
We'll wait to see what Sean does.
Yeah. Sean's struggling. So one thing that there's some USW news that didn't really get brought up, some a little bit. Clarksville, West Virginia, National Labor Relations Board informed the United Steelworkers that Eurotech that it decided to issue a complaint of their unlawful lockout to employees that happened on July 11th. Another thing, Union Plus is offering disaster relief to people affected by the Louisiana floods. Let's see, we talked a little bit during this podcast you'll hear later about Novelis and the NLRB coming down on them for unfair labor practices.
While we're still talking a little bit about some of the steelworker news, just want to talk a little bit about the organizing campaign that's still going on out in Lancaster. Still pushing towards getting more cards, and they'd be the biggest win in District 10 in a long time. So we need to keep pushing that and getting people out there to help getting organized.
Welcome to those guys that have signed cards, and continue to work. It's worth the effort. It's worth joining the union for sure. Another part that kind of didn't make it on there was the Medicaid issue. It did a little bit in this podcast and didn't. Branstad and his wisdom of giving that to private organizations, and a couple things about that during the research of some of the things that's been wrote in the paper, if not locally here in the Quad Cities, but from the Des Moines Register, that they require 90% clean claims. And what that means is if it's denied or paid, it could be a clean claim. So as long as the right codes, addresses, and dates are on, it's a clean claim, even though it's not right. Even though it's not paid right, even though the dollar amount's not right, or it's just as long as it's denied, it's a clean claim. So some of the Iowa State representatives in an article that I read said that they had not talked to a single provider that had been paid by these outside insurance companies, and then which results in some of the caretakers not being paid, and even some of the patients had to wait up to 6 weeks to get good catheters.
So none of the providers had been paid, or not paid correctly? Not paid at all?
Some not paid at all.
Wow.
There was one local in Muscatine, a care place that said they are having to take out loans, and pretty soon they're not going to be able to take out loans to pay their employees because they're waiting on back pay from the private insurers.
Wow.
Another part that got left out was, or a little bit talked about, was like the Grassley. So Grassley and Trump like to go far, far to the right in their comments, and now they're backtracking, or what Sean will put in a little later, baby steps. So Grassley all the way said he wasn't going to appoint or have hearings for a Supreme Court judge. Now decided that he's gonna backtrack. But I know we did talk some of that with Tracy.
Too little, too late, though.
Right. So I mean, like Grassley, like Trump seems to be softening his immigration stance, or did, I should say. By the time I wrote this up, he has now flipped again. But all during this, Don J was on there again saying that it's going to be baby steps. It's going to be baby steps, which automatically made me think of, what about Bob?
Baby steps.
Yep.
And if you listen to part of it,
You're right.
it totally goes with what Trump needs to do. Just take baby steps.
Baby steps.
But he doesn't take baby steps. And I could just see Don J strapped to the sailboat, saying, Donald Trump driving the boat, or one of his, or a captain, because he probably wouldn't do it himself, and Don J strapped in saying, "I'm sailing."
Yep.
Sailing. Anyway, I thought that'd be fun. I had fun with it.
Baby steps?
It means setting small, reasonable goals for yourself, one day at a time. One tiny step at a time.
Baby steps.
For instance, when you leave this office, don't think about everything you have to do in order to get out of the building. Just think of what you must do to get out of this room. And when you get to the hall, deal with that hall, and so forth. You see?
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Oh, boy.
Baby steps. Baby steps. Baby steps through the office. Baby steps out the door. It works. It works. All I have to do is take one little step at a time, and I can do anything. Baby step around the office. Baby step around the office.
Also, in news that's outside of our area, then Grand Chute, Wisconsin, had a victory for unions when the United States Court of Appeals 7th Circuit found that the union has a First Amendment right to display an inflatable rat balloon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's good. So then we talk later in this podcast with Tracy that your elections have consequences. So your federal judges are appointed and go through Congress and the president. So that's why it's important, not only president but on down the ticket.
Correct.
So we can get judges in here that'll back unions. So with some of the stuff with Trump, we did talk a little bit about how he has a problem with minority voters. And to go along with that, back in 1973, Trump management was sued by the Justice Department for discrimination against blacks and renting out some of its properties to blacks. You can find that, I believe, was part of a Washington Post did the investigation. And anyway, it's more of the same. This was his dad that owned the property, but Trump was president, I believe, of running that business, or part of it. And you have them suing their way out of it. They eventually settled and had some had an agreement signed. Let's see, a decree here. Later on, I mean, it's been all in the news. They put a big letter C on the front cover of a application if they were black, standing for colored. Later, another guy that was a property manager that was in a discrimination lawsuit that included claims of racial slurs was uttered by a manager whom Trump had personally praised. when that happened, that was back in, I believe that was 78 or around 73 time frame. Then of course they sued again until it went away, and by then kind of the where people were living changed, so it really fell away. But again, that's the person you want for president. So down to the stuff that we definitely did not cover in the podcast here. So the corporations are coming. We talked a little bit. I guess we did talk a little bit about this in 7. But the pharmaceutical companies jacking up prices. So of course the latest one was Mylan, and it was Heather Bush, CEO, where they jacked up the price of EpiPen to go from 9 years ago less than $100 for a 2-pack to around $600. Later went down to say they'd offer a generic for $300, but the price of epinephrine, is $1, and the auto injectors alone cost $5. So it's $6, and you're charging $300.
Sorry, that was my fault.
That
was me.
You got your hat backwards,
I know,
so
I know.
It wasn't like it was the bill.
He's got a big head.
So anyway, we talk a little bit about that, but definitely those guys on the corporations are coming, and definitely for this 3-part series, runners up for douche of the week in the running for it, definitely.
Yeah, and before we get there, there's actually some good news with corporations. We talked a little bit about Under Armour bringing back some of their, or the majority of their manufacturing to the United States, and now we got another one. New Era is now bringing back their hats, and I believe they're starting with all their NFL hats, and then going to bring back everything else to the United States,
Except Broncos.
into Buffalo to be made by union members. So.
Hey, Sean, if they'll make the Brewers hat I'm wearing in the United States, then they'll make the Broncos one for sure.
And if they make the Cubs in the United States, they'll make anything here. So
yeah, that was company has 270 workers at the Derby plant in New York, and we'll have to add an additional 17 for the NFL field caps to be made here in America. So yeah, more good news there. So that leaves douche of the week, and if we go through the show, there's a couple glaring douches of the week, whether it could be the Muscatine City Council, and to me the other one that stands out is the CEOs of these pharmaceutical companies that are jacking up the prices on life-saving drugs.
So my vote, definitely hands down. We'll see if we can be unanimous, or if we need Sean to chime in here. For me, it's the Muscatine City Council.
Saying that, so we're saying democracy over the pharmaceutical company. Well,
Sure.
Okay, Sean, you break the tie.
Side with Mike.
Side with Mike. All right, Muscatine City Council. Congratulations.
Douche of the week.
Fucking douches.
So is that it for number 7 then, Roy?
That's it.
So thanks for listening.
Baby steps.
This has been Steel Revolution. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steel Revolution Podcast. Questions or comments, email us steelrevolution105@gmail.com. Steel Revolution is a production of Steelworkers 105, Bettendorf, Iowa. Steel Revolution.